Hello there! You saw my intro. My name is Morana, and you clicked on this video, so you're expecting some zoo content. Over a year ago, I made a failed gator mill in Florida on my channel, and I am here to let you know that I cracked the code. Originally, I went too big too fast. Now, sadly, I did not record my journey through this because I was certain that I was going to fail again. But thankfully, I did not fail. I failed at failing. And I remembered every tip and trip and stumble that I made along the way, so now I'm here to share it with you. In my first attempt, I had 6 big breeding tanks. Now that was my first mistake. I started this time with 4, and placed all of my babies in the back tanks, just as the same as before. This was still a mistake. As I saw my funds just free-falling, I put most of my animals back into storage, except for 1 pair and a few babies that I wanted to sell off immediately once they reached adulthood. Now I was onto something. Turns out that my feeding costs were just too high, and sadly, only a few dumbasses wanted to see my zoo. So, income was limited, obviously. Thus, fewer animals that needed to be fed was obviously the best way to go. After a few rounds of this, I was finally making enough to put yet another breeding pair in and raise up all of the other gator pups. Eventually, I must admit, I got a little bold. Gators are fun and all, but I wanted to do more. I already got this process down, and I craved just a little more of my scaly friends. So, enter the giant tortoises. I only made 1 tank for these guys because I saw them more as a novelty and less of a source of breeding income. Spoiler alert, this was a very faulty idea to start with, and they became my new cash cow. And a problem. At the same time as the tortoises, I also started a few exhibit animals, such as boas and frogs. Later, I felt like the frogs ruined my branding, so I got rid of them. Well, actually, the frogs bred too quickly, and to track them became more annoying than it was worth it, so once my funding became a non-issue, I just got rid of them. From this point on, my money was no longer a concern at all, so I could do whatever the hell I wanted. I became a god, and I was a gracious one. I started to give all my scaly friends nicer food, newer habitats, and not overcrowd them. Even added educational content too for what was now becoming actual zoo patrons. Human and reptile alike thrived within my domain. That was until I got the gharials. I've always liked the look of these funky little guys, even though I never learned a damn thing about them. And yes, you, dear viewer, are now going to learn all about the gharials right now. But not for me, I'm too lazy to do that. So I got a text-to-speech little robot thing to read all of the Smithsonian information text for me, so enjoy that.
The gharial is one of only 2 species in the Gavialidae family. It has a characteristic elongated narrow snout, similar only to the tomistoma, previously called the false gharial. Many sharp interlocking teeth line the gharial's elongated jaws. Gharials exhibit sexual dimorphism in both size and appearance. Adult males develop a bulbous growth at the tip of their snout, called a gara, after the Indian potted resembles. The gara has several functions. It partially covers the crocodile's nostrils and acts as a vocal resonator, creating a loud buzzing sound when the gharial vocalizes. It is also a visual signal for females, helping males attract a mate. Because of their weak leg muscles, gharials are poorly equipped for locomotion on land. Most of their movement takes place in the water. When they do move across land, they push their bodies forward across the ground in a motion known as belly sliding. The gharial is one of the largest of all crocodilian species, with males reaching 16 to 20 feet long. Females typically only grow to lengths of 11 to 15 feet. Historically, the gharial's range spanned rivers of Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Myanmar, Nepal, and Pakistan. Today, only fragmented populations remain in Nepal and northern India.
Okay, enough of that. I think I'll go back to my voice now, thank you very much. As the robot voice was saying, their native range has only gone down to 2% in the wild, and there have been captive bred breeding programs to help with their loss of habitat and decline of population since 1980. Despite the captive breeding programs, they're still listed as critically endangered since 2002. Surprisingly enough, one of the main factors that lead to the destruction of their environment is actually sand mining, which is a growing issue that deserves its own video. That fun fact matters because one of the main things that gharials do in order to stay warm and alive is basking on sand beaches. They almost exclusively do this on sandy features for some reason, and they need it for their habitat. These sandy basking grounds are also used as their nesting habitat. Gharials are surprisingly social. They are often found basking together in large groups, often comprising of just one male, several females, and many subadults. Crocodilians are known to be surprisingly good mothers, with females that raise the young well into their subadulthood. Gharials are very interesting in this fact that males will also help with the rearing of the children. Large family groups, including the male, are often found basking together between December and January, and the females and males will also bask together all the way up until mid-February. The social aspects of the gharial don't end there. Large groups of females will often meet up right before egg-laying season to dig their nests together on the sandy banks. These groups stay together well into the hatching phase, where they will all go back to the sandy beach in response to the chirps and dig them back up. Males often don't help with the digging up process or the assistance with carrying them to the water. However, once the babies do reach the river or water source that they're staying in, the males are often seen guarding them, protecting them, have a high interest in them, and carry them on their back. These crocodilians have very complex social lives and a dynamic, ever-changing habitat that needs to be maintained. That makes reintroduction programs a little more difficult than originally anticipated. A program in 2003 released 36 adult gharials back into native populations. However, it was found by the next year that only 14 survived, and many of these other programs have kind of revealed that there isn't much success in reintroduction. For whatever reason, they don't become part of the breeding population. Programs have since then switched over to the protection of nesting sites to prevent it from having sand mining or any other human-involved destruction. However, we have yet to see any results from this, since it's a relatively new development. Oddly enough, the gharials seem to have a very important aspect of religion to the local people since 4,000 years ago. They were often depicted surrounding deities or being a ferryman for them across rivers. The reason why I bring this up is I find it kind of interesting that these creatures were once revered and respected and now kind of sidelined and destroyed for fishing and farming. Anyways, before I get too sappy about random animals going through nonsense, back to the gameplay and how I plan on making the gharials have a better breeding program within my zoo. I'm either going to start keeping adult females in with the baby gharials, because for some reason that did seem to increase their happiness within the game. Or I'm just going to get rid of the baby pen altogether, increase the entire habitat, and try and keep all the babies with all of the adults. In the game I already did this with saltwater crocodiles and it seemed to have helped greatly, but other reptiles within the game for some reason, such as monitor lizards, didn't seem to give a fuck either way. I have no idea how much the game actually keeps track of these natural behaviors and habitats, but I'm gonna treat it super seriously because for me, that's more fun because I'm a weirdo. Anyways, that's all the updates that I have and any of the knowledge that I want to drop about a random crocodilian, so hope you had fun with this. Thank you for sticking around and have a beautiful day, random visitor.